Future of Cannabis. The future of cannabis. The cannabis market has taken the world by storm over the last several years. Flowers and oils are now readily available in countries around the world. Where will the future of the cannabis market take us? How do medical professionals view the market, and what are they looking for? Join us to discover where the market is headed over the next 5 years and beyond. CEO of Alvit LCS Pharma, Chairman of the Board of Intelicanna. From Israel, Yona Levy.
Pleasure, first of all, to be here. Thank you for participating. I'm going to share with you a little something before I'm starting this talk, and that's going to be that when I was asked to speak not long ago about cannabis in this conference, I asked my second in command to let's try to make this more fun thing. Let's try to make it more challenging for me. And I want you to choose the subject for me. And he says, okay, I got a big one for you. The future of cannabis. That's one big sentence. What is the future of cannabis? Can we try to at least figure out what the future, where the cannabis industry is going to? So it's a little bit of a mystery. And for that mystery, I don't know if you remember, I guess it's my age, a movie called Back to the Future. Michael J. Fox, he used to have a McLaren, if I'm not wrong, it wasn't McLaren, it was DeLorean. He had a DeLorean over there. And what I want you to do with me right now is I want you to sit with me on that DeLorean. And I want to go with you to the future, a little bit of cannabis. I have a little bit of advantage because coming from Israel and being part of this industry for the last at least 7 years, setting up a couple of companies, which I might talk about later if I have some time on, gives me a little bit of like the way. I know the route of where the cannabis has been gone so far, and maybe I have some advantage of figuring where it's going to. So let's hold on tight, let's put the seatbelt and look at least what's going on around us. We're seeing countries, one after the other, allowing more and more open or at least so regulation, that's the first one. I'm sure before me, you've seen many people showing the benefits of using cannabis, if it's just CBD or a full extract. I'm going to share with you a personal story about that. And that actually shows you that the need is there. And if the need is there, it's going to get fulfilled somehow. No country can stand in front of a parent that, let's say, have a kid that sick with epilepsy and tell him this material, this plant can help your kid, but we're not legalizing it. So on that route, we can kind of assume that more and more countries will legalize cannabis. It might start with just legalizing it as, per indication, just for this, just for that. Later on, you might see, or you're already seeing, some countries allowing some element or some components within the plant to be legalized. At least the components that does not have any effect that could be challenging. Okay, or let's say without THC. Okay, so you see a CBD market growing relatively quick and probably going to go quicker. And if we're talking about going quicker, then one can assume that that you will see it in more and more products as time passes by, and you'll see the THC market dealing with specific indications growing and growing. So more and more countries will participate. Now, I said I would share like a personal story. So how did I got into this? Like what got me moving from my comfort of other businesses I was part of, going into an industry that just started, that was not clear where it's going to go, was not clear if it's going to get fully legalized, was definitely had a reputation at that stage of you dealing with it. And I think what got me into it was the need that I seen with both of my parents actually to use it, and both of them different needs I've seen over there, and different effect on them. And that showed me that cannabis is quite a big word. It's not the one plant. There is A cannabis that makes you more sleepy. There's one that makes you more awake. There's one that makes you more, hungrier, give you ability to eat more, and one that suppress that. So I realized it's pretty big market. My first time actually seeing the need of it was with my dad. My dad was not a healthy person, and I'm going to save you the details of how not healthy he was. I would just say that he got to the point that regular painkillers were not doing the work anymore. And my brother suggested to him, he says, Daddy, most of those drugs that you're taking, not only not good for you, you also got to the point they're not really helping you. So why don't you try it? They're much, the consequences of using them are by far more dangerous than using cannabis. And since luckily for us, we were living in Israel, and, Israel have the longest, at least one of the longest cannabis program out there. My dad was able to obtain a license to receive cannabis. And I can tell you two things about this. I can tell you that cannabis haven't cured his disease. He did not survive through his sickness. But what I can tell you is that the last 2 years of his life was much better. So when you deal with patients, specifically, let's say cancer patients, there are two elements. It's the extent of life, like how long your life will be, and then there is a quality of life. And on the quality of life, I can tell you that my dad and the whole family around him have gained tremendously, okay? And life was much better. My dad was happier. His pain was more tolerable, and I can definitely vote, or recommend from a personal need. And when I saw this, I realized that if my dad gained from it, then there's a lot of other people like my dad that can gain from it, and there is going to be a market over there. I will just add another element in there, that my dad was not able to smoke it. He was one of his problem was also asthma, and I remember a case where he was, we were looking for other ways for him to receive it, and his way was, the way it was he received it as an edible, something to eat. And, the edible was a cookie. And he liked cooking. My dad liked cooking. So, we received the cookie, he ate the cookie, and he was very happy. And shortly after that, he fell asleep. And when he, an hour later, we tried to wake him up, it wasn't that easy. He wasn't responding to us. He was alive, but he wasn't responding to us. He was very deep sleep. And a little bit, now 2 hours later, we try again, and 3 hours later, we try again. And after 3 hours, we just get a call to the dispensary and says, what was in the cookie? And they asked us how much of the cookie he ate. And we said the whole cookie. And they showed us a picture that the cookie was divided to 9 pieces in the back, and, you should have had one every day, a piece every day. So, first of all, thank God he woke up after, and there was no damage happened to him. The only damage for overdosing was sleeping a little bit too long. But for me, a light bulb just jumped out there. It says, people need a better way to consume this. It cannot be smoked. It cannot be eatable. It cannot be something you eat. It's got to be something that is more measurable. The doses need to be more controlled. And then another light bulb showed up there. That light bulb told me, we're talking about medical cannabis, and we want the doctors to be the biggest advocate of this. So how do we expect them to be the biggest advocate of this if we're not giving them any product that speak the same language of what they've spent the last, years, 7 years learning, and I don't know how much after that, practicing. And a slogan came, and from that a company came, and I think that's going to lead us to where the future is going as well. The slogan was, let's make cannabis speak in language that doctors understand. If we want them, and we do want them, to be leading this cannabis revolution, then it's time for us to get them the tools, bring them the tools that they can actually do that. So that ended up getting me to be part of a company called Alvit. Alvit is a company that develop drugs out of cannabis. The slogan that we said before, making cannabis speaking language doctors understand, leading us through the last 7 years of development. The language is relatively known to people coming from the pharma industry. People know the doctors wants to know, first of all, what's inside what they're prescribing to the patient. They don't want one word cannabis. They know it can be what the active components inside there. And is that active components is helping to the indication that my patient have. And that's something that needs to be controlled. And then they want to know what's the bioavailability, how much of it is getting into the body exactly. And when you ask that question for a doctor, why is it important? Because you probably need to be dosed differently to a patient that is have a different weight, a different age. Okay, so they want to have control over it, to know exactly how much to give by knowing how much of it getting into the body. And I think one of the most important things they want to know is they want to see a clinical trial comparing the product that you're offering to something else in the industry, something they recognize. So that's what we've done for the last 7 years, developing product. But then a whole line of question raised. Okay, so the question raised for us was, okay, where do we get cannabis and what cannabis is good for what, and trials have started. And I'm not going to bore you with a whole list of what you need to do to get to a product, but I'm just going to put it as a components up there. Okay, product is talking right now language of flowers and oils. You hear people using oil, you hear people smoking flowers, you hear people, some product you hear about a little bit of a cream. So it'd be fair to assume if we're sitting in that DeLorean car that we were arriving into the future, you will see products, you will see sublingual tablets, you will see extended release, delay release. Each product fit for the indication. Let's just take an example. Let's take a company like GW, full pharma company, received the first drugs that have cannabis components approved by the FDA for dealing with epilepsy. This is, a revolution. Okay, it's mean that the actual FDA agreed that some components, actually CBD, is helpful for, indication, epilepsy. Now, if we're looking at this happening and we're saying doctors prescribing this, and we see the rise in sale for this product, we can assume that in the future, other companies are dealing right now with cannabis and realizing the need is not just with CBD, but for other indications with THC, a full extract. This one is helping, let's say, Parkinson, and the other one is helping pain. They will follow that route and actually be able to offer products that looks like the medicine that we recognize today. So in the future, I would assume we'll see more product. Now let's go into another something, maybe it's fair to see that we can see in the future. If we recognize that, for example, they recognize that CBD was helpful for epilepsy. If they recognize CBD, for example, is anti-inflammatory, that is good for your body, a little bit like, let's say, green tea or other element that is good for your body, you will see a trend of CBD into almost everywhere we go. I mean, I've seen places visiting in America, and that was so long ago because we don't have flights right now. But I remember stepping into a coffee shop and the barista offered me a CBD shot into my coffee. Now that was a little glimpse of the future. It's like, okay, so they're offering it now in a coffee shop, okay, and not for purpose of just a medicine, but as a health, as a wellness, okay. And then stepping into another shop, seeing product for creams and for psoriasis and for, that's something, that's another thing that we probably will be able to see in the future. Now, let's talk about for a second, I guess the way people view cannabis, okay? Another personal story. I was lucky and fortunate enough to be invited to the Davos convention last year and the year before that. And that was kind of amazing because, if you go back a few years, cannabis wasn't legal. And suddenly now you're in the center of the biggest convention in the world, and you're talking about cannabis. And I was very proud. I actually shared it with my family. And then I got this little story from my kid. He said that, actually not from my kids, be more clear. I got it from the kid's teacher. There was supposed to be a parent-teacher meeting. And my kid, I guess for good reasons, told the teacher, "Oh, my dad can't come." And the teacher asked, "Why can your dad come?" And my kid says, "He's participating in the Davos Convention." Let me tell you something, the teacher was impressed. Okay, it sounds amazing. And he said, "It's amazing, maybe your dad should come speak in school as well." And my son, says, "Well, let's talk about this, we'll see." And then my teacher asked my son, "Okay, so what does your dad do?" And my son, without blinking for a second, said, "My dad is a drug dealer." Now, this whole story, as funny as it is, if you put a finger, what I want you to put a finger for a second is, how do people view dealing with cannabis? Okay, is it viewed right now as this is something for medicine, or is it viewed this is something for fun? Now, I'm not going to touch, is it really for fun or this? I'm just going to say, how do people participate cannabis right now? Okay, how do they have it in their mind? Is in their mind someone that is growing cannabis, let's say? Is that someone that deal with sick patients or not? Now, there is a whole legal world that was before, and how do we overcome this? So with this, I'm going to just go to another element that was happening once and took it to recreational and not for medicinal. But if we remember, alcohol was illegal for a while in certain countries. And later on, when it became legal, it created from one side a great opportunity for a lot of investors and create a lot of wealth. But at the same time, it did not went into the medical route. It went into the recreational world. It did not show as much value as cannabis shows, in the medical route. So it went in on the more profitable for alcohol route on the recreational. But the mindset of this is wrong, this is illegal, have got eliminated. Over here, we have advantage. This is actually helping people. And since it does help people, then you can assume that we will, at least the element of how this market, viewed by everybody around, we can expect this market to be viewed as a market that's helping. Now, unfortunately, the biggest advocate for cannabis today, as effective as they are, have evil names. I mean, the advocate of cannabis today is not me. It's not a lawyer somewhere. The advocates are cancer, or psoriasis, or Parkinson is pain, and those advocates are everywhere. They don't discriminate between religion, color, race, gender. They visit everybody, and they visit them 365 days a week, days and night, and when you have such powerful lobbyists for this industry, then we can assume that in the future we will see this industry continuing and getting legitimized in more and more countries. I think my time is about to run out soon, so I'm gonna try to end this with a little view of how things will look for cannabis in the future. If you notice, I left all the economical side away in this discussion. It did create a lot of wealth in Canada, will create a lot of wealth in Europe, will create a lot of wealth, and creating a lot of wealth in America and other countries as well. Everybody will follow, and the market will participate and grow. But to end this, if we are landing right now in, let's say, 5 years into the future, if we're landing there and getting out of the car, I think we'll see that a lot of the stories of how and what cannabis can help you with is going to go, and you'll see actual help. You'll see proof, clinical trials showing that this is helping for this, the same way GW did with the epilepsy. and you'll see it with other market as well. I think my time is about out. If there's any questions, I'll take them now. Thank you, guys.